Thomas Paine, Thomas Paine, Thomas Paine, Sam Adams, Sam Adams, Sam Adams, Benjamin Franklin, Benjamin Franklin, Benjamin Franklin. These men spoke up for what they thought was right. From their courage came such documents as the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution of the United States. From their willingness to speak what was sometimes unpopular but right, we enjoy such liberties as freedom of speech, the right to keep and bear arms, and freedom of religion. There are those who still wish to oppress our freedoms, and there are still patriots willing to stand up and defend life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Men like Zeb Bell, who honor our founding fathers and what they stood for. It's now time for Zeb at the ranch, speaking up and defending your freedoms. Brought to you by Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers and all of the other great advertisers on the program. And now, Zeb Bell.
Oh, God bless Helen for all of her things that she sends me, including this thought to live by this morning, and I really appreciate this one. People are like tea bags. You have to drop them into hot water before you know how strong they really are. Amen. Good morning. Here comes Kate Smith, and God bless America on this Monday. Good morning. Good morning. Thank you very much, Kate Smith, and God bless America this morning. And boy, do we need that, don't we? And good morning, I'm Zeb Bell at Zeb at the Ranch with our major sponsor, your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers, all 7 locations serving you. Service is the key word right there. Thank you, Les Schwab. And also some of our great advertisers, including Western Waste Services, always at your disposal. Get on the route service today. Call Kelly and the crew at 734-6969. Lady, well, I have 2 ladies I'm very appreciative of, Deanne and this little lady over at our studios. Good morning, Gina.
Well, good morning, sunshine, and happy Monday to you.
Is there such a thing as a happy Monday?
There's not such a thing as a happy Monday, but I'm trying to put forth that positivity, you know.
You know what? I think there is a happy Monday because I'm really, really happy to be here today. So anyhow, we're going to have a big program.
Yes,
and, do you have the fog over there, by the way?
Yes, we do.
Oh, my goodness. It's really,
like soup.
Yeah, pea soup thick out there this morning.
Yeah. So please be careful if you're out there driving because I think visibility might be 100 yards.
Maybe. I'm just going to go, but maybe.
But maybe. I'm sitting here looking at the window, and I can kind of sort of see the highway from here over to Minico High School. So that's about 100 yards.
Okay, I'm looking out my backyard into the field, and let's just put it in football analogy. If you threw a pass and the wide receiver's going from the 40 down to the goal line, I think it's going to bonk him in the face mask.
True story.
Okay. Hey, do we have a caller for a pledge?
We have Al on for the pledge and Mr. Michael Rogers on for the weather.
All right, good. Good morning, Al. God bless you. Thanks for calling.
Good morning. God bless you. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Al. As always, I appreciate you.
Deb, can I read something for the people?
Yes.
Okay, people out there in Radio Land, here's an Irish blessing for all of us. May love and laughter light your days and warm your heart and home. May good and faithful friends be yours whenever you may roam. May peace and plenty bless your world with joy that long endures. May all life's passing seasons bring the best of you and yours.
I like that, Al. I'd like to have a copy of that.
You can get it over at the dollar store.
All right, my friend. Hey, God bless you for calling, man.
And I hope you're feeling better.
I appreciate it, Al. Thank you very, very much. Appreciate it. Thanks. Dear friend right there. And it's time for the weather, and it's brought to you by Cheney Flooring and Home Design, 1228 Oakley Avenue in Burley. Look for the blue door. Number to call, 678-6945. Don't forget, when hanging panel curtains, hang them as close to the ceiling as possible and wide enough that they cover the least amount of the window as possible when they are open. You know why? It creates height and the illusion of a larger window. Ha-ha! There's a tip for you at Cheney Flooring and Home Design. 1228 Oakley Avenue in Burley. Check out all their newly refurbished furniture and look for the blue door. Right now it's time for Michael Rogers' weather.
Morning, everybody. Spent the last 7 days on the East Coast, Allentown, Pennsylvania, Jim Thorpe, Pennsylvania, and also Philadelphia. When I was there, picked up 6 inches of snow. I left just in time for that blizzard that's going to be zipping in there sometime today. What does that going to do for your weather? Well, you got that nagging fog that just will not go away. But the good news is for today, for the Magic Valley, your temps are going to be up in the 50s, and it's going to stay there with the daytime highs for at least the next 72 hours. Overnight lows will be right around the low to mid-30s, but otherwise, that fog is going to be lingering, and it just will not go away. It will burn off, but it's to the point where it's just nagging you. So keep this in mind if it's nagging you, okay? The East Coast is getting ready to go through a blizzard with about 8 to 12 inches of snow, and it's 46 degrees below zero in Fairbanks, Alaska. Thanks for the weather. It's the only weather you got.
There's my buddy, MichaelRogersWeather.com, brought to you by Cheney Flooring and Home Design, 1228 Oakley Avenue in Burley, 678-6945. Look for the blue door. I've got some thank yous I want to take care of this morning. And first of all, Lorna Arbogast the other day at Lunch Bunch gave us some little gifts that mean so much. Little gifts mean so much. And one of them is right here on my studio desk. And it's a cowboy boot with a spur on it. And it's just really a neat little deal. Lorna, I thank you for everything you do. Thank you so much. And also, I want to mention Dwayne Wageman. Walked into Lunch Bunch the other day, and there is a life-size cardboard cutout of John Wayne. And I really appreciated that because it was very touching, and I wrote about it in my latest edition of Cow Pies and Coffee Cups. When they put it up over there at Denny's at the Zeb's Lunch Bunch, they put it just off to and a little bit ahead of the American flag, and how fitting that was. It was quite a sight. So, Dwayne, thank you very much for that life-size cutout of the Duke, John Wayne. Thank you very much. Don't forget Daryl's Cleaners. My goodness sakes, they can clean anything. And boy, I've taken in some Rumply Crumplies, and they've been stained and everything else. I didn't think they'd ever come back looking good. Not only came back looking good, they came back looking brand spanking new. Daryl's Cleaners at 1223 Albion Avenue in Burley. The number to call, 878-8900. And whatever you've got to have clean, take it in there. They are the best. They are the pros. Daryl's Cleaners in Burley. You stop in and see them today. Also, our thanks go out to SafeLink Internet. Number to call, 677-8000. And right now, no contracts, no credit checks, unlimited data, and the first month free. Say no to the winter blues with high-speed internet. And get your SafeLink Internet services today. Again, call them at 677-8000. Tell them Zeb sent you, okay? SafeLink Internet. A couple of news notes this morning. First and foremost, I want to talk just briefly about the Pro Bowl. I thought that the Pro Bowl last night on television, a precursor to the Super Bowl, and this is my own personal opinion, there may be many out there in radio land that don't agree, I thought it was one of the worst football games I have ever seen in my life. The rules have been changed so that it was basically like powder puff football, and I turned it off. I watched about, maybe a quarter and a half. Worst football game I have ever seen. The worst example of football that I have ever seen. And I think the NFL would be better off canceling that game if it's going to be played like that under those particular rules. There were no kickoffs. There were no blitzing. Basically, it was like flag football, and I think it was derogatory to put that game on the same venue the week prior to the Super Bowl. It was at the same stadium down in Phoenix, etc. I just think it was absolutely a worthless venture. What are your thoughts? Give me a call, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. By the way, also, another little ditty, if you will, with all the problems going on in the world today, and we have major problems, whether it's our national security, whether it's our national economy, whether it has to do with Obama and all of his rules, regulations, and his executive orders. There is a lot to be talked about in the news. Why would Scott Bedke of CBS, when interviewing the Speaker of the House, John Boehner, why would it be such a big deal to ask, the Speaker of the House why he frowned in the background, sitting in the chair behind Barack Obama during the State of the Union speech? Why he frowned? And then coming out and saying, do you practice that frown? What? Come on. News in the old days, and I mean when I was growing up, was news. They were hard drivers to get the facts and present them. Is the way somebody sits with a scowl on their face or a frown during what I thought was frownable material, if you will, the State of the Union address, is that really newsworthy? Please. Calls welcome, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. Need your calls. Give me a jingle. Ramsey Heating and Electric at 2600 Overland Avenue in Burley. Open 7:30 to 5:30 Monday through Friday for all your electrical needs. You can call ahead. Have your order waiting for you on the counter, 678-0459. And don't forget, we're going to be lulled, I'm afraid, into a false sense of security here with the warmer temperatures right now. Wintertime's still here for quite some time, and it's going to get chilly. Make sure that you check out the quality air filters for your furnace at Ramsey Heating and Electric. Don't get those cheap ones because you'll keep buying and buying and buying. Get the good ones at Ramsey Heating and Electric, where they provide warm winters and cool summers. Ramsey Heating and Electric. Also, real quick, before we go into another story, I want to remind you about Valley White Home and Ranch, 910 South Oneida in Rupert. Sean, Mandy, the whole crew. They just got in a huge shipment of camo clothing. I mean, you could stand in the middle of your living room and nobody would see you. No, they couldn't, because you're in camo. And hoodies and shirts and pants, anything that you need or want. And they're also going to have a huge Valentine deal, too. So be listening for all the details at Valley White Home and Ranch, 910 South Oneida in Rupert. These are really, really good people serving you at Valley White Home and Ranch. Did you see... I'll take this call and then I'll get into the next subject. Good morning, you're on the air.
Yeah, that ball game last night, that wasn't a ball game. Why don't you just put the tutus on them and their ballerina slippers with flags around their waist and let them sit there and look at each other?
I'm not going to argue with you. I wouldn't even think about disagreeing with you. It was nothing more than an exercise in futility. If that's what's going to sell the best players in the National Football League, boy, they really folded their tent.
And I really didn't like the way that national anthem was presented either.
Thank you. I know I am a traditionalist, but this girl had, what did she do? She finished second, or did she win American Idol? I couldn't care less.
I think she won American Idol.
Yeah, I think you're right. But anyhow, her name is Jordan Sparks, and when she got to the very end of the song, she had destroyed it previously, but when she got to the very end of the song with the Home of the Brave, I don't know what universe she was thinking about going to, but she didn't hit the notes, and it was terrible.
I know. There's three people that I'd like to listen to, and that's our girl that does it every morning.
Linda Croft.
Yep. And Whitney Houston.
Yep.
And our local girl here, Linda Croft.
And I'll add another one to that list, and I think Keith Ramsey does an outstanding job. I will say, though, the only thing that I liked about that Pro Bowl game, Al, is the narrowing of the goalposts. I think that's not a bad idea.
Yeah, but it sure tore the hell out of Ventura. record.
Yeah, that's true. Ventiera, yeah. But, the game itself, that was, if there were newcomers to football and there were people from out of the country and anybody else exposed to that was about as exciting as watching water dry up in a crack after a rainstorm.
I know, like number 58, he'd been, paid to go after the quarterback and that. He'd done it 3 times, got penalized twice.
Yeah, it was a mamby.
What am I supposed to do? He said, that's the way I'm paid to do.
Yeah, it was a mamby-pamby flag football game. It was terrible.
Yeah, I know it. Well, anyway, and then about that Boehner.
Yeah.
How come he wants to pick on him when Vice President sit there and doze off?
When you stop and think about how Scott Bedke from CBS News can call himself a journalist and ask about a frown, and with all the other things going on in the news, they're wasting their time on somebody's facial expression. Would you give me a break?
Yep, I'll give you a break. Okay.
God bless you, Al. Thanks. I want to ask everybody about a video. I saw a video this morning, and I'm going to get Gina to weigh in on this in just a minute, too, but I want your calls at 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. It just was absolutely disgusting, and I'll explain what it was in just a moment. Berry Equipment and Rental. Oh, my goodness sakes, these guys are busy. They've got all the equipment to do any job right and get it done. You better believe it. Berry Equipment and Rental, Eli, Nick, the whole crew, 3 locations, Addison Avenue West in Twin Falls, South Lincoln and Jerome, 159 West Highway 30 in Burley. And they're going to be at Agra Action at the CSI Expo Center, and that's going to be on February 5th through the 7th. Agra Action CSI Expo Center, and they will be there. So anybody looking for a loader, I'll tell you what, he's going to make a good deal for you. Eli and the crew at Agra Action, Berry Equipment and Rental, Twin Falls, Jerome, and Burley. Really good people. There was a video that I caught this morning, and it was disgusting. Absolutely disgusting. In a classroom at a New Jersey high school, a teacher, and one of the students filmed this on their smartphone. The teacher, a 62-year-old man, a 62-year-old teacher, asked the student to turn off his cell phone. It had rung in the class, and I guess he had answered it. And he told him to turn his cell phone off. This student jumped out of his desk, went over to the teacher, grabbed the teacher, and body slammed this 62-year-old man. He was kind of a diminutive man, small, but he body slammed him to the floor. And there were other students you could see in the background that were laughing and giggling and urging this student on. I mean, is there no respect for authority left in our society anymore? When you've got high school punks, and they're not all high school punks, but these are, high school punks egging on a 16-year-old to go and grab a teacher and body slam him to the floor because he asked the student to turn off his cell phone. I mean, I'm at a loss. The teacher should have grabbed that cell phone and zipped it out the window. I mean, and maybe the kid along with it, I don't know. But what are your thoughts on this? There's no respect.
Where were the other students for standing up for the teacher on this one?
There wasn't anybody.
I saw the video. I just watched it. And
isn't it? Okay, explain what I just said. When you see that video, you see other students laughing and just basically smiling and thinking it's a funny deal.
Yeah, and it's disgusting. Honestly, my heart hurts for the teacher because, number one, the students are there to listen to the teacher, not to dink around on their cell phone. And I know that schools around here, if you're caught with your cell phone, you're suspended. Your cell phone is gone. There's no tolerance for that around here. And so for the teacher, he's just doing his job.
Yep.
He wants the students to pay attention to him. And so when the student comes out and he wants his cell phone back and body slams the teacher, he deserves more than a suspension. He deserves some jail time and some community service.
There's no question. I totally agree with you, but how? Here's the other side of the good question, too. How can that teacher, now that he's been body slammed to the floor, how can he ever go back in that classroom and ever have a commanding respect from these kids? It's over. It's done for him.
I kind of disagree with that. I think that the teacher can assert his authority, but I think that the students do need to learn how to gain a little bit of respect. And honestly, I think all of those students in that classroom should be suspended.
You know, Gina,
I think that every one of those students, because they did not stand up and say something, then I think that all of those students should be suspended.
I just, honestly, I know I'm playing my age, AGE, on this, but I've got to. We, as students, when I was in high school, would never have dreamed of doing something like that.
Not in my school. Whoa, no.
I mean, I can see a teacher like Glenn Lepley that I had, or Mr. Harbison, or Mr. Thompson, or any of those teachers. Thompson, by the way, was the high school football coach at Fort Atkinson High School, and he was 6'5" and weighed well over 300 pounds. Now, please tell me there's not some student dumb enough to try to body slam him. But if they would have, Thompson would have grabbed us by the ears and literally dragged us down the steps into the main office, and Glenn Lepley at that time would have probably not only taken the ruler to us, had my dad and mother in there in about 5 minutes. I mean, there was repercussions for actions back then.
Oh, and same in Elk River, we might have been a small little school. Mr. Thompson, he was the coach, because we had a Mr. Thompson as well, and he was the coach for the basketball team. And then we had Mr. Ireland, who was our principal. Boy, howdy, anything goes on in that school, and those two, you just didn't want to cross their paths. And not to mention, they would have called the parents, and the parents would have been there in 3 seconds flat.
I have no sympathy, and I've got to do a break here, but honestly, Gina, I do not have any sympathy, and the liberal left are saying, oh, you can't touch little Johnny and Susie, or it'll wreck their psyche. I wish somebody would take a 2x4 to their psyche when they're acting like this, like animals in a classroom.
Yeah, you do not disrespect a teacher like that who's there to help you learn and succeed in life. Shame on that student. And like I said, he deserves more than just suspension. He deserves some jail time and some community service. And maybe he should actually have to volunteer to help out that said teacher in that same said classroom.
I like that. I like that idea. But I think that from that point on, like you said, a community service and everything, I think he should become, that's a great idea, to become a teacher's aide to that teacher for the rest of the year.
Amen.
Thank you. That's a good idea.
Okay.
I've got to get some things taken care of here. Don't forget Denny's Restaurant, 611 Overland in Burley, and their new location. Yup, at 291 Pole Line Road in Twin Falls. Oh, my goodness. Home run city. You want a great meal, breakfast, lunch, or dinner? It's Denny's Restaurant. We were over there for our great Zeb's Lunch Bunch last week, Thursday. I'm telling you, we just hear nothing but praise about the menu, about the food, about the service. Thomas was there, and he takes the time to go around and see everybody. It's wonderful. And don't forget Denny's Restaurant, 611 Overland in Burley. The very best of eating for you and your family at Denny's Restaurant. Hey, by the way, right now, let's take a listen to the Capital Press Ag Minute, and it's brought to you by some really, really nice folks at Pacific Steel and Recycling at 320 West Main in Burley. Number to call, 678-2321. For all your recycling needs, don't forget they can help you at Pacific Steel and Recycling. They've got the great big scrap bins, and don't forget to call them, and they'll have that junk car removal from your property. You better believe it, 678-2321. Mighty fine folks. Pacific Steel and Recycling, 320 West Main in Burley. Here's the Capital Press Ag Minute.
Today's Ag Minute brought to you by the Capital Press, the West Ag Weekly. The direct harvest of dry beans will be the focus of the annual Idaho Bean School meetings January 29th and 30th. The free meetings are sponsored by the Idaho Bean Commission and will be held January 29th at the Red Lion Canyon Springs Inn in Twin Falls and January 30th at the Hampton Inn in Nampa. Both meetings will be from 8:10 a.m. to 1 p.m. Direct harvest of dry edible beans, which is accomplished with one pass of a combine as opposed to the conventional method of undercutting, leaving in windrows, and then combining, is common in some other states but new to Idaho.
Experts on this harvest method from the University of Nebraska will explain direct harvest as well as equipment considerations. For the Capital Press Ag Minute, this is Brandon Tenner.
For more agriculture news and information, turn to the West's Ag Weekly, the Capital Press, and capitalpress.com.
Oh, thank you very much, and brought to you by our friends at Pacific Steel and Recycling, 320 West Main in Burley. Number to call, 678-2321. You stop in and see them today. Calls are welcome, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. Can you imagine, honestly, think back, for those in my audience, what would have happened, honestly, if you were in that classroom and you were 16 years of age and you were told to put your cell phone away and you jumped out of a chair and attacked a 62-year-old man, rather small in stature, and body slammed him to the floor in the classroom? What would have happened to you? I probably wouldn't have seen the light of day for so long, and I probably wouldn't have been able to see it for two reasons. They'd have probably locked me up and probably blackened my eyes to the point where they swelled over. I mean, I can't imagine doing anything like that years ago without really rapid and drastic repercussions. And today, unfortunately, it's commonplace. Unbelievable. Don't forget our friends at Scout's Carquest Centers. I'm telling you, they've got 3 locations. Now, if you need automotive replacement products, accessories, and supplies for virtually every vehicle, why don't you talk to the pros? I mean, people like Jeff Poole. That man is a wealth of knowledge. He's an encyclopedia of car parts. I've never met anybody like that. He is so smart over this stuff. And all the employees are like that. My goodness, they're good at Scout's Carquest Centers. You better believe that customer satisfaction is the goal. Every detail matters. And they have 3 locations to serve you: 518 Overland in Burley, 323 East 8th and Highway 25 in Rupert, and their big truck center at exit 211 I-84. The best Scout's Carquest Centers and excellence. Now there is a team. All right, give me a call. 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. Oh, did you hear what they found on the White House lawn? It was on the news at 8 o'clock, and I heard this story this morning at about 4 a.m. They found a drone. I mean, on the White House lawn. Oh, gee, what's that? It's a drone? We are living in a day and age when you have to sit back and kind of scratch your head a little bit, and you have to say, wait a minute. This is the White House of the President of the United States. And a drone is found on the lawn. A couple of months ago, it was somebody jumping the fence and running into the White House. And you have to ask, where's the security? You have to ask, where's the safety? You have to ask, who is minding the store? Good morning, caller. You're on the air.
Good morning. I just attended the potato school last week, and, there were a couple different places where they showed aerial monitoring with these small drones. I've seen them actually demonstrated this fall at a meeting. And they, with one battery operation, they can stay in the air for 20 to 30 minutes, and the pictures are very high resolution. And so, but, it's the fact that they got a drone in the White House airspace. They're just, incredible, really.
Adrian, it is, and I know you're going to agree with this, it is absolutely just a matter of days, hours, or minutes until a drone fouls the engine of a jet aircraft, a jetliner, and we have a major crash.
Yeah, there's getting to be so many of them, and I don't know what regulations are out there, but these aren't very big. The the resolution of these cameras and their ability, like I say, I saw a live demonstration, and I was watching a monitor at one of the displays at the Potato School this last week, and I mean, it's tremendous technology, but you're right, the airspace. But as far as privacy, holy cats, we don't have any privacy.
Well, there's a book, and I had the author on my program, and maybe you were listening that day. It's called Drones, simply called Drones. And the gentleman that wrote the book, it's been over a year ago, I had him on my show. And he had written this book starting about 3 years ago, before drones and the understanding of what they could do were even really prominent. But in this book, he predicted all the evils that would happen in this country and around the globe with our loss of freedom, our loss of being our privacy, everything gone because of drones.
Oh, absolutely. There's no doubt about it. And, you know, if you get a big enough one, you can probably drop in a pretty good bomb just about anywhere you want to go with it.
But today, in today's age, though, Adrian, I know that you'll agree on this, too. You talk about size. It really doesn't matter about the size because of the minuscule amounts of certain bomb-making materials that it takes to have a huge explosion. But can you imagine finding, I mean, oh, gee, what's that, Ernie? Well, it's a drone on the White House lawn?
Well, you know, it's like I say, technology. I've been going to the Potato School. I've had it 47 years. I've been there 41 years, and to see the technology advances, the thing that it just blows me away to think back of what it was back then and what's available now with the GPS. Sometimes we now hear about the tractor drivers falling asleep, and some disastrous things happen when they don't have to really do much other than just sit there and watch the GPS guided tractor do its operations, you know?
I agree. It would be like yesterday as a prime example of what you're talking about. The sun was warm, and you get out of the wind, and you sit in that sun, and yours truly was in la-la land in about 5 minutes, so I know what you're talking about. I got to run and do a commercial, my friend. Thank you. God bless you.
That's a good one.
Thank
you.
you.
Bye now.
Hey, let's not forget our friends at Minnecasia Sales. They are the sponsor of Dr. History at Tuesdays at 10:06. Minnecasia Sales at 1321 East Main in Burley. Zach and Joanne, the whole crew. They've got they've got everything. I don't know how they do an inventory because they can do everything for you. They got windows and doors, garage doors. They've got carpet and vinyl and metal siding, and they've got all your Tartar Farm and Ranch equipment. That's good stuff. You better believe it. Minnecasia Sales, 1321 East Main in Burley. Number to call, 878-2091. Sponsoring Dr. History on Tuesdays. Thank you. Calls are welcome and appreciated. 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. Give me a call. While I'm waiting for your call, also I want to remind you about Canyonside Irwin Realty, serving all of the Magic Valley, and I'm very proud to be a part of their organization. You can call the office number at 734-6500 or my number at 312-2976. Canyonside Irwin Realty, serving you. All right, give us a call. Here's another story I wanted to throw out, and I hope you don't take this like I'm boasting. I'm just stating a fact, all right? There was an old cowboy that said one time, "It ain't bragging if it's true." Well, this is what happened, and Gina knows this is true. Last week on Monday, there was a conversation on my program about some of the Republicans that are running possibly for the presidency. What is there now, 45 or 46? They're coming out of the woodwork. And I had made the statement last week that when a caller called in, I made the statement, I said, I think, honestly, the best Republican to run for the presidency and be able to show his power and be able to prove his net worth and be able to lead better than anybody else is Governor Scott Walker of Wisconsin. Okay, I know I'm prejudiced being formerly from Wisconsin, but the guy really proved himself under fire with all the liberal Democrats that had the combined IQ of a hockey puck. They went after him and tried to recall, tried to get rid of him and everything else. Well, he not only emerged successful on the recall, but he has put the state of Wisconsin economically in the black. They've erased all the red ink, and it is in the black. He's done a tremendous job. Well, this past weekend, guess who emerged as the number one Republican, according to even Democrats that were watching the big to-do at the Republican Summit in California? Yeah. Wisconsin Governor Scott Walker. I listen. And John LeBoutelier has been on my program many times. He's a former congressman from New York State, and he has a show on Fox News on Sundays. And he and some other fellow Democrats were on the show, and they were saying, holy smokes, Governor Scott Walker just absolutely is the front runner, in their opinion, because he's so dynamic and he had the answers to the questions. Instead of just getting up there and say, vote for me, I'm such a nice guy, he had everything laid out as to what needs to be done to get us on the straight and narrow. And the old guard Republicans naturally hate him. You know, when you start thinking of the John McCains and the McConnells and all the others, the Jeb Bushes, and of course you look at Chris Christie, and all, they hate him with a passion. But we need to get rid of the old guard. They need to have their uniforms taken away. And somebody say, thank you, now go sit in the last row and behave yourself. It's time to get some new blood out there that is going to fight for American ideals, fight for what we the people want, and fight for our Constitution, and fight for our borders, and fight for a good education system in this country. I'm not sold on Common Core, and I never will be. I just think that Scott Walker is the man, and I've made my decision. I absolutely think he is the man to push for in this next election. Your thoughts? Give me a call, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. While I'm waiting for your call, I know is coming in, you're dialing right now, I'm going to do the weather forecast real quick. And the weather is brought to you this hour by Red's Trading Post. I almost said Ryan's Trading Post. Well, he owns it, but it's called Red's Trading Post. Anyhow, now that I've got you confused and I'm on the same track, Red's Trading Post, 203 5th Avenue South in Twin Falls. They've got all your guns. Yeah, great selection of new firearms, Browning and Beretta, Weatherby, Ruger, Bernelli, and Smith & Wesson, Winchester, you name it, all the ammunition, all the accessories. And they also have the concealed weapons classes from LMS Defense and Legal Heat. You stop in and see them today. Really, really good people at Red's Trading Post, 203 5th Avenue South in Twin Falls. And here now, Michael Rogers Weather.
Hello, everyone. Michael Rogers for Zip at the Ranch. Start of a brand spanking new week of you, me, fog. Yeah, fog. And weather. That fog should burn off. The good news is that you're going to see daytime highs in the 50s as you work your way toward today, tomorrow, and also for Wednesday. Overnight lows will be right around on the chilly side. And that fog is going to be lingering around. In fact, it's going to kind of make you upset. And that's okay. Just keep it in your mind that two things. If the fog is really bugging you and is really making you upset, it's going to be 46 below for the overnight low in Fairbanks, Alaska. And New York City and pretty much most of the northeast corridor is going to be under a blizzard. You're doing good. So the weather is the only weather you got.
All right. Thank you very much, Michael Rogers. Weather.com, brought to you by our friends at Red's Trading Post, 203 5th Avenue South in Twin Falls. Now it's your turn. Give me a jingle, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. Well, I've got another story I got to get in here too real quick. You give me a call. What a waste of oxygen and a lot of skin, and that is Michael Moore. This corpulent little man. Michael Moore calls himself a filmmaker and a director, etc., etc. But he's a sick, perverted liberal. And I had to choose my words very carefully because there's other things I would like to call him. But he came out last week, in the beginning of the week, and really condemned and tried to vilify the film American Sniper. And he called Chris Kyle and others of the military cowards. Well, there's another person that has jumped on the bandwagon with Michael Moore, and it's liberal Democrat Howard Dean. You know, good old Howard the Duck. Well, he chimed in, and he told everybody that the reason that the film American Sniper is so popular is because it's supported by the far right-wing nuts, the Tea Partiers and others. That's what he called us. Yeah. And he said if it wasn't for their support, it would just be another movie and it would fade off into nothingness. Wait a minute. There's something to consider here. The percentages have been broken down as to who's going to see this movie. Many people would be surprised that I think it's well over like 35% of the people that go to see this movie are women. And not only that, but the film American Sniper, which really is showing a lot and giving a lot of credibility to waving the flag red, white, and blue and being proud of our country, has grossed over, now listen to these numbers very closely, the film has grossed over $200 million so far. So far. And it was just recently released. But at the Screen Actors Guild Awards last night, guess what happened? They didn't even mention the film American Sniper. And a movie that I'd never heard of, and quite frankly, I don't think I'd even want to go see, called Birdman. And that film, by the way, has only grossed so far $30 million. So we've got American Sniper grossing $200 million plus, and the film Birdman grossing so far $30 million. They give the award of the best picture to Birdman. Go figure. Go figure. The liberal worthlessness of Hollywood and their animosity towards Clint Eastwood and this film about Chris Kyle's life, and the resurgence of God bless America and respect our country and support our military, and Hollywood, no way they're not going to get involved in that. No way. And here's a film called Birdman that has only grossed 30 million ticket sales, and $30 million, I should say, is the number one film from the Screen Actors Guild, and American Sniper already at $200 million and getting bigger every day. It's just absolutely ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. Give me your thoughts on that. 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. I got to ask Gina about that. Gina, isn't that just the height of ridiculousness and hypocrisy?
I do believe it is.
I couldn't believe it when I heard that. I have been a member of the Screen Actors Guild for probably almost 30 years. And as a member, you know, they send me my vote and everything else. Even though I'm a little fish in a big puddle of water, they send me my right to vote for what's going on with SAG, the Screen Actors Guild, and everything. Mm-hmm. But I'm embarrassed to say that I belong to that organization for the way that they handle things.
Very one-sided, I will say.
Yeah. Here's a film that has grossed over $200 million, and it was just released recently, as was the film Birdman, and they never even mentioned at their awards American Sniper last night. No. And they gave the best film award to Birdman that's only grossed $30 million. Holy buckets!
You've got a phone call, by the way.
All right, thank you very much. Caller, good morning, you're on the air.
Good morning, Zeb.
Yes, sir.
Well, if they're feeling that the sniper is supported by the far right, the Tea Party, and that there, then they better be shaking in their boots back there, because there's a lot of far rights out here in this country.
You know, Doug, what difference does it make, and I know your answer because you agree with me, but what difference does it make who buys the tickets? I see a resurgence. I really do. I see a resurgence of being American proud. I see a resurgence in a kind of a choked up feeling of heartfelt pride for the American flag and our Constitution. Honestly, I do. And I think that the liberals are so upset over that, they're going to do anything they can to quell that movement.
You hit it right on the head there. It's what the American sniper has done has brought the American people, like at the end of World War II when they was welcoming the soldiers home. It has woken that patriotism up.
But Hollywood hates that.
I know it. They do, because they are so in a make-believe world, basically. They live in a make-believe world.
Yeah, and for them to see this resurgence of the red, white, and blue, and to see the resurgence of people standing tall and proud and reciting the Pledge of Allegiance, and the people, like my program opens every day with Kate Smith and God Bless America. I had a guy, I got to tell you this story. I had a guy about 2 years ago stop me on the street and say, listen, I really can't stand the way you open your program with the Pledge and Kate Smith and God Bless America. And I looked at him and I said, do you really feel that way? And he says, yeah. He says, I don't like that at all. And I said, well, then turn the dial, buckaroo, because it's not going to change.
There you go. Yep. Yeah, there you go. So, well, keep up doing the good work.
Okay, buddy. Hey, thank you for your call. I appreciate it.
Bye.
You know, I just hope and pray that there is a resurgence of more pride in this country. Good morning, caller. You're on the air. Talk to me. Good morning.
George, that's you.
George, come on, let's go.
Good morning.
Yeah, come on, George. I'm waiting.
Yep, I can't hear you very good, but I went and took my grandson when seeing the American Sniper, and you don't have to be a veteran to walk out there standing 10 foot tall. I was very proud. A very excellent movie. Those that don't see it is missing the boat. It's an outstanding movie. It portrays the person, what he goes through as being in the military. It's an awesome picture.
Thank you for that report, George. And I don't want you to talk about the film because I don't want to give anything away, but God bless you for your call. I appreciate it.
Okay, thanks, sir.
Thank you, sir. There's one of my dear friends right there. George, I appreciate that. Calls are welcome, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. You know, you take the Michael Moores and you take the Howard Deans and you take all these liberals. These are crackpot kooks. Why? Why do they want to destroy? Why do they want to take the loose threads and keep pulling on them until the flag of the United States is diminished? Why do they want to keep tearing apart the fabric of the greatest country ever in the world? A country that everybody else could look up to and respect. A country that was always there in a time of need. Why do they want to hurt it? Why do they want to change it? Why? Calls are welcome, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. While I'm waiting for more calls, don't forget your 7 Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers. Oh, they are the best. Absolutely. They've got the best in traction tires. They've got the best in all the tires that are pinned for studs to get you through the snow and the muck and the yuck. And they've got all your performance tires, all your tires for all your different style driving. And they've got all your tire chains, all your batteries, my goodness sakes, the very best in brake service, front end alignment, shocks and struts. Holy cow, they can do it all. You stop in and see Lane and Rupert, Dave on Blue Lakes and Twin, Mike and Buell, Mike and Jerome, the Twist family in Paul, John on Pauline in Twin Falls, and Randy on Overland in Burley. Your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers. Calls are welcome. 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. We were going to go with Kiltman and his lovely wife Lori to American Sniper the other night, but we got sidetracked. Believe me, we got sidetracked, and we could not make it to the movie. But I'm anxious to make sure I see it before it leaves the area. I really want to spend my money to see something good like that movie, American Sniper. Holy cow, did you hear about the East Coast right now? They're expecting over 3 feet of snow in certain areas and certain states on the East Coast. 3 feet of snow and hurricane force winds. Ay. And believe me, those people haven't got a clue. You could end up with 6 inches of snow and 35-mile-an-hour winds, and they would go, oh, Chicken Little, the sky is falling. And I'm not laughing at them. Actually, I'm hoping for the best, because when you start throwing weather forecasts out like there's going to be 3 feet of snow and hurricane force winds on the eastern seaboard, oh my goodness, it's going to be a train wreck with these people trying to get prepared, or possibly never prepared. Later on this morning, here's what we got scheduled. I'll just tell you this real quick. We've got next hour Frosty Wooldridge. Got a lot of things to talk to him about. And then, of course, at 9:30, we've got Carrie Kupek with the Alliance Defending Freedom. And, have I got some great stories to talk about with her. And then at 10:06, we're going to have my dear, dear friend Jack Euler calling in over the Wolves. His story just never goes away. And the liberals are out there trying to change all the rules again. And then at 10:30 this morning, we've got our legislative update, and I believe Speaker of the House Scott Bedke is going to be on the phone with us this morning. All that coming up. I'll be back in 6. Oh, good morning. Morning, and be careful as you go outside. Take a butter knife with you and cut the fog. It's thick out there this morning. My goodness sake. And Deanne said it's also very chilly. Okay, there you go. I'm Zeb Bell, Zeb at the Ranch, and I want to remind you that we're brought to you by our major sponsor, your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers, all 7 locations serving you, and some of our great advertisers, including Western Waste Services.
From the canyons of the Snake River and all across southern Idaho, we're always at your disposal. Western Waste Services, we care about our community, our resources, and this great land. Western Waste Services is lending a hand, always at your disposal. Western Waste Services.
Western Waste Services, you call, get on the route service. Kelly and the crew at Western Waste Services are always at your disposal. Locally owned and operated company serving all of Magic Valley, all the Minicash area, all of Magic Valley. You get a hold of them today, not only to get on the route service, but maybe you need a dumpster. They've got them in various sizes, and clean out the basement, the garage, whatever. They can help you at Western Waste Services, always at your disposal. We're going to have our guest with us in just a moment. Stay tuned. But right now, I also want to remind you about our dear friends at Hanson Mortuary at 710 6th Street in Rupert with our dear, dear friend Joel Heward, the manager, and his family and staff. Absolutely the wonderful people that are willing and able to travel to rural towns and churches to serve you when there's the passing of a loved one. They want to make it as easy as possible for you in making all the arrangements with the highest ethical standards with unquestioned integrity. Please write this number down and call them, 436-5636. That number again, 436-5636. Hanson Mortuary, 710 6th Street in Rupert. Right now, I say a good morning to a dear, dear friend back in Golden, Colorado, and I say howdy to my buddy Frosty Wooldridge.
Hey, good morning, Zeb, and just greetings to you and everyone listening. It's always a pleasure to be with you on Mondays, and hopefully we get to sort out a few things and give our fellow Americans across the country and even Canadian listeners a chance to really understand what's happening to our country, what we can do, and how we can take action. And so I'm always thrilled to be with you on Monday morning, sir. It's a pleasure and an honor.
You know, Frosty, there is no one that I can rely on more than you to give an honest appraisal of what's happening or not happening with our border security and the illegal alien problem in this country. You are top-notch, top of the hill as far as education and knowledge is concerned. What do you think about this new bill that is trying to get through, and it was implemented and written by a Texas congressman, a new border security bill, and it would really, really tighten up our borders? Does it have a snowball's chance in the oven of getting passed?
Well, again, you have an open borders man named Obama in the White House, and so it doesn't have a snowball's chance. And here is the real tragedy. Most Americans don't realize that Speaker Boehner, for the last 3 or 4 years, since he's been Speaker of the House, has absolutely squashed the E-Verify bill. And so you really have Republicans working against the American people because Boehner absolutely is bought off by the U.S. Chamber of Commerce and Marriott Hotels and McDonald's and Tyson Chicken and Hormel Foods. All of these big, massive corporations literally want and will continue to bury the American worker by hiring illegal aliens. Mm-hmm. And so men like Boehner, who's supposed to stand up for the American Constitution and the American worker, for heaven's sakes, are in fact really squashing the American worker by making sure that the E-Verify isn't passed. So this new bill is not going to have much of a chance either, especially when you've got a president who can veto it, and we can't override the veto with a 2/3 majority. And so that's the reality. And then the American worker, again, we got 48 million Americans on food stamps and all the millions that are on Section 8 housing. And so I don't see this thing happening anytime soon.
When you talk to the various individuals and people that you know on the border, whether it's down in Arizona, wherever, what are you hearing? Are they absolutely in disgust? Are they so distraught because nothing's being done? What are you hearing? I don't want to hear it from the news media. I don't want to hear it from politicians. I want to hear it from the grassroots, because then I know it's true.
Well, the grassroots are beyond exasperated because the borders are as porous as a colander, for water. I mean, and that's the reality of it. And the fair, and certainly capsweb.org, which I write for a great deal and hope that everyone joins, along with numbersusa.org. But FAIR with Dan Stein has some really top individuals that are, checking this out at all time. I know, too, and I keep in touch with John Slagle, a 30-year Border Patrol agent, along with Gunny McCann, who's a 30-year, Border Patrol agent. And they're right down there right now. And I talked to John Slagle just last week after we had talked. And the borders are as porous as they've been 10 years ago, 15 years ago. There's nothing happening to stop the influx of illegal immigration coming into this country. In fact, it's really growing at this point. The average estimate by numbers right now, Roy Beck and his legions, is around anywhere from 500 to 700,000 per year coming across the border illegally, and they're getting past the pretend border patrol that's down there right now.
Frosty, you've been there, I've been there, okay? Simplicity is always the best. When you ask a question or want to have an answer, just lay it out in simplistic terms. Both of us have been there. I don't understand, and you got to help me along with millions of others, why we're even having a problem with an open border to this country. I mean, there's got to be sanctity and safety for our citizens, and you can't just have a hodgepodge of people from God knows what country and what they're doing here coming across our borders anytime they want to. What is going on? Why did we let this happen?
It's really become a part of the corporations buying our constitutional republic and essentially making it almost moving toward an oligarchy. We're no longer a constitutional republic. I hope everybody understands that, because money controls what happens in Washington now. And again, once Teddy Kennedy passed the Immigration Reform Act in 1965, and he started dumping 1.2 million third world immigrants onto this country, then the corporations started hiring them. And then the illegals started pouring in because no one really, the Bracero program that Dwight D. Eisenhower really carried out very effectively back in the late 50s, just got pushed asunder, and the capitalistic, essentially the capitalistic hogs in these corporations like Tyson Chicken and like the chicken factories and Hormel and up in Minnesota, Wisconsin, they're Hormel Foods, and then Marriott got into it. The U.S. Chamber of Commerce got bought off totally. And so then you have all of these people that will work for nothing because they came from countries that worked for less than $1 a day. And so then you had all this unbelievable slave labor that would do anything to be out of its own country and be into this country for a better life. And so that is what happened. That is what's happening. And now, essentially, the fox controls the hen house. Tyson Chicken, Marriott Hotels, Holiday Inn, you name it, they get all of these slave labor maids to clean up all those thousands, really hundreds of thousands of rooms every morning. And of course, restaurants across the country are hiring illegals to wash the dishes, and right on down the line. And it's all because the American people didn't elect somebody to stop it. I actually just kept in touch with Scott Walker from Wisconsin. He took over the Iowa first billings here for the presidential race in 2016. I don't know that much about him, but I know he stands for principles at this point. It'll be interesting to see if the American people actually elect citizen representatives and a congressman and women that are going to represent the American people. But right now, that's not happening. And as I said, John Boehner is as guilty of not serving the American people as anybody I know, because he has squashed E-Verify every year since he's been the speaker.
You know, what you just said, I was going to ask you about. I'm so glad you alluded to Governor Scott Walker. I'm prejudiced because I was born and raised back in Wisconsin, but I got to say, this man has been tested. This man has been proven as he went through the fire with the liberals on a recall that wanted to basically hang him back in Wisconsin, and he took a state that was so engulfed in red ink and he turned it into an economic success where all the red ink's been erased and it's in the black, and he has showed them through a recall he can stand the fire and go toe-to-toe with these people. And this last weekend down in California, this man that you're talking about, Scott Walker, came out as the #1 man that everybody respected more than the Jeb Bushes or anybody else. And even Democrats like John LeBoutelier and many others are sitting there going, wow, this guy is good.
Well, I want to get excited about Scott Walker myself, and time is going to tell. But the American people, and dear listener, go to newswithviews.com this morning, and I've got a letter in there by an American woman speaks out. Thoughts on our country. That's the title of it. You'll see my picture at the top, and this is a piece. She wrote me, and I said, she wrote me all of her frustrations. Well, I get hundreds of letters every week from my columns, especially this latest one, Impregnating America with Muslims. That one has been going all over the internet, and people are just sick to their stomachs that we've got 2,200 mosques in this country, and we've got all these no-go zones. We are, as a nation, in so much trouble. You and I are probably some of the few in this audience understands how deeply in trouble we are. But this country's begging for leadership. Jeb Bush is not going to lead this country into any kind of anything except for the same kind of stuff that his brother did to us. And so we can't afford another Bush in the White House. I want an American citizen who is an American that's going to serve the American people. And this Scott Walker, he's got guts, gumption, and true grit. he shows himself to serve the U.S. Constitution, and he starts taking action to say what he's going to do about immigration in this country and what he's going to do about jobs and what he's going to do about the military and certainly about overseas involvement. I'll tell you what, if he stands like an American, like a man that literally represents the Constitution of America, then he's going to get my all-out support. And you know, when I get with somebody that has integrity like that, then that's the key for me, integrity.
Okay, now, wait a minute. Stop right there because, whoa, I believe in everything you said, and I also am going to support that man. But on the other side of the coin, there sits a woman by the name of Hillary Clinton, and I did a lot of research over the last couple of weeks as to really, what has she done? What kind of accolades has she achieved to be a presidential hopeful? And I'm going to be honest with you, I am so scared that she may become the president of the United States, and it hurts me to say this, but I think, honestly, she could be worse than what we've got now.
Let me make this really clear, Zeb. Hillary Clinton is a Barack Obama in a dress. I mean, and that is that. And let's face it, we did not vet Barack Obama. He was absolutely unqualified. Even if he had a birth certificate that shows that he was an American citizen, he was not qualified to stand in the White House and become a president of the United States. He was just a do-flunky that got to ride all sorts of phony scholarships into Columbia and into Harvard. He had his law license was going to be taken from him by the powers of Illinois because he had done so many phony under-the-table stuff with his license. And I swear it had to be an affirmative action license to practice law because so much phoniness is going on for affirmative action these days. And the fact is, Barack Obama had no more qualifications to be president of the United States. In fact, I had more qualifications to be president of the United States when he got elected back there in 2008. And Hillary Clinton, what did she do? What has she done? What qualifications? Again, all Hillary Clinton is another Barack Obama, and this time he or she is in a dress. And we would have the same kinds of consequences that we're having with Barack Obama, and they would just be multiplied. And people, one thing, Barack Obama just hired another Somalian refugee lady who's now the new immigration. Literally, she's the one that turns it off and on the spigot there at the White House, and she's the one about to import another 75,000 Syrian refugee Muslims into our country here in the coming months. Let me tell you, when you see this article, you're going to see the lady's face right there. Just go to newswithviews.com. American Woman Speaks Out, Thoughts on Our Country. It'll just make you sick what's coming on to our country.
But there's a caveat here that we need to discuss. You and I, remember 6 years ago, boy, do you remember 6 years ago, they were trying to tie us to a pole and they were trying to whip us. Yeah, well, I mean, we had national news after us and everything else, which is fine because I had big shoulders, you had big shoulders, and we weathered the storm because we called them what they were. They were absolutely slovenly liberal Democrats that didn't have a backbone. And here's the problem the way I see it. The minute that we criticize Hillary Clinton, there's going to be a certain segment, a big segment of the liberals that are going to crawl out from underneath their rock and they're going to say we're anti-women. Now you remember, who was I supporting back 6 years ago to run for president against Obama? She was black and she was a woman, and it was Condoleezza Rice, and I still think she's very qualified.
Indeed, I would support that. Condoleezza Rice was much more qualified than Barack Obama times 10. And that is a fact, and I will stand behind that. And anyone that knows me knows that I absolutely am 100% in support of any qualified person, male, female, black, white, brown, yellow. It doesn't make any difference. What I want to see in the White House is somebody who has the integrity to maintain the presidency of the United States and support the U.S. Constitution. That's not being done with Barack Obama, period. That's a fact. And the fact is, Hillary Clinton, whether it was her incompetence at Benghazi and the cover-up that goes with that, and the cover-up and the incompetence that's going on with with this man named Barack Obama. The American people, if they elect somebody like Hillary Clinton, unfortunately they're just going to elect same old thing, Barack Obama in a dress, and worn out and unsuccessful mandates and governing that's just not working for our country. I swear, if she ever got into the presidency, I got to go retire to a country road and not look at the news anymore.
And I agree with you, but I'm being very critical of Hillary because, number one, she doesn't have any innovative ideas. She doesn't have anything that hits the news that sounds good. I'm surprised that she has a base that's going to put her up on a pedestal regardless of what she says or doesn't do. I'm really surprised that she is considered to be the shoo-in because, number one, she's not that smart, and number two, she doesn't really have a track of success to run on. What's the matter with the American public being led and duped into thinking she would be great presidential material?
In many ways, Zeb, the country felt guilty about racism and slavery and all that, and here was an articulate, silver-tongued man named Barack Obama that wasn't qualified. However, people voted with their feelings. They voted with their emotions. And now you sit here and America needs to have a female leader. Instead of voting for, I'd vote for Condoleezza Rice over somebody like Hillary Clinton in a heartbeat, because the qualifications are just mega over what anything that Hillary Clinton could bring to the White House. And yet, the emotions of this country really speak louder than common sense and rational and critical thinking. That's what you're seeing, and that's what's going on.
I agree. We've got a caller, and I've only got 2 minutes left. Caller, real fast. Go.
Just wanted Frosty to comment about the fact that Bush and Romney met together in Utah this last week. Are they planning to do a president and vice president combo there? And of course, Bush's views are the same as Hillary's, so there'd be no difference there. Anyway, I'd like him to comment.
All right, good. Frosty, go ahead, please.
Well, that's an outstanding question by the caller, and thank you. It's extremely frustrating. I mean, I thought Romney would do one heck of a job in the White House. I'll just tell you that straight out. Certainly anything was better than a Barack Obama. A combination of a Jeb Bush and a Romney at this point, if Romney was on the top of the ticket, that would be my choice. Jeb Bush literally is one of those people who absolutely supports illegal immigration and mass immigration into our country with no end. And in the end, as I've said, we're about to legally immigrate well over 100,000 legal third world immigrants into this country from 140 failed countries. That's why people flee their country, because the country fails to feed them, to water them, to house them, to work them, and to allow them to have a peaceful life. So they're fleeing to this country, and so that means that we would have 140 different worldviews, 140 different languages, 140 different cultures, all failed from these 140 different countries. That's 100 million people, folks. The consequences are so grave for our country. I filmed with the George Norrie program a week ago and gave the stats, and everybody in the television room were just blown away by what I said. So the key here is we need to have voices like mine to get out there and say, folks, 100 million more people in this country is going to be the downfall of America, not only environmentally and quality of life-wise, but certainly culturally, ethos, and you name it. And somebody like a Jeb Bush would be one to augment that invasion even faster. So Jeb Bush scares me to death no matter what ticket he's on.
Okay, real fast. Give me a short answer on this. Quickly, last night was the so-called Pro Bowl. I said it ought to be called the Toilet Bowl. It was worth flushing. It was nothing more than a glorified flag team football contest. It was mamby-pamby and wussy. What were your thoughts?
Well, that's exactly what it is. It's just a showman. It's just show. It's a goof off. Those guys walk home with $28,000 for the winner and $18,000 for the loser, whatever it was. and they're already making millions anyway. For whatever it is, it's entertainment, and that's all you can take it for. It has nothing to do with serious. It has no meaning whatsoever. And that's just the way it is, and so that's the Pro Bowl.
Yeah, toilet bowl. You misnamed it again. Frosty, God bless you, man. Have a great day, and we'll look forward to next Monday. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you. Always a pleasure.
Thank you, sir. My dear friend back in Golden, Colorado, Frosty Wooldridge, and I appreciate him being on my program. Got to pay some bills. Let's not forget our dear friends, and they are Let's Ride, 270 Highway 24 between Rupert and Burley, where the fun is sold. Right now is a great time to load up your four-wheelers. Load them up, put them on the wagon, get them over there to Let's Ride and have them serviced. So they'll be ready come spring so you can hit the trails and enjoy. Don't wait. Make an appointment right now. Get them serviced at their excellent service department. And these guys are good. Brad and the rest of the crew, polite, courteous, and know their stuff at Let's Ride, Highway 24 between Rupert and Burley. And also, don't forget, they've got all the accessories for everything you're involved in, like snowmobiling, ATV, and they got it all right there at Let's Ride, Highway 24 between Rupert and Burley. Yup, where the fun is sold. Also, our thank yous go out to Cameron and Siemens Insurance. I get it. You ever have an itch on the end of your nose so bad that when you're talking you had to scratch them? Well, I did. I just had to push my nose in there for a minute. A little personal insight. Had an itchy nose. Anyway, Cameron and Siemens Insurance, Dean and Todd, dedicated and very responsive to your needs, and they can handle all your coverage on life insurance, health insurance, retirement planning, employee benefits. They know. They understand. They are the professionals. Get a hold of them today. Call for an appointment, 436-4424. Cameron and Siemens Insurance, Highway 24 in Rupert. We're going to go back to the phone lines right now, and I have just a ton of respect for this lady, and I'm very honored to have her on my program, and that's Carrie Kupek with the Alliance Defending Freedom. Good morning, Carrie. How are you?
Good, Zeb. Good morning. How are you?
Well, I got to be honest with you. You sent me two stories to talk about this morning, and you don't know me personally, but I have a severe German temper. And when I read these two stories, I was seeing red because I had reported on both of these stories on my regular part of the talk show, and especially the one with the T-shirt case down in California. Bring us up to speed so that we can converse about it. What's going on with the Morgan Hill Unified School District in California and students that were told they couldn't wear American flag T-shirts?
Yeah, so it's a school district in Southern California, and what happened was there was a Cinco de Mayo celebration, and a lot of the students obviously have Hispanic descent, and this holiday is special to them. So a lot of the students celebrated that, and they wore things accordingly that supported it. And there were some students, though, that also wore American T-shirts and things like that. And T-shirts with American flags. But the school said that they couldn't do that, that they couldn't wear those T-shirts with those American flags. And so this case is something it's going all the way up to the Supreme Court. That we've issued we've written a friend of the court brief expressing our support for students to wear those T-shirts that have the American flags, and really just the right of any student to wear a T-shirt with that kind of message on it. And the school is obviously an arm of the government, and they can't dictate whether students can, or they can't shut down students' speech, in terms of expressing this patriotic support for the flag. And so we'll see if the Supreme Court takes it.
Okay, let's break this down a little bit. Carrie, first of all, Cinco de Mayo, I don't care if the Mexican families want to celebrate Cinco de Mayo. That's entirely up to them. I don't care. It is not a U.S. holiday. And when our students or anyone in this country is told to either turn your shirt inside out or take it off because it displays an American flag so that it doesn't, quote-unquote, quote, incite violence or any turmoil, something is radically wrong and sick in this country.
Yeah, and like you said, the school was concerned. I think they have some issues with gangs and things like that, and I think the school reacted and said, we're afraid that this is going to, like you said, incite some kind of reaction, and really, and the Ninth Circuit, in an unprecedented decision this past fall, said, yeah, public schools can ban this kind of peaceful protesting speech, but that's not constitutional. American students, they can't be, and they shouldn't be censored just because government officials think someone might be offended. That's known, to ban something like that is called a heckler's veto, and the Supreme Court has made it very clear over and over that the government cannot stifle speech on the basis that someone might consider it controversial. If the school is to engage and to consider engaging in this kind of censorship, it's a real problem as far as the First Amendment is concerned, because part of, like we said before, I said before in the show, being involved in civic life in this country, or even part of any kind of educational system, robust debate and dialogue and conversation, this is something that public schools should embrace and encourage, not shut them down and say, turn inside out your T-shirts and have American flags on it. That doesn't, from a constitutional standpoint, you just can't do that. But secondly, just from an educational standpoint, why would you do that? That undermines the entire purpose of education.
What is wrong? What's happened in this country, Carrie? What happened? Where did somebody open up the door and boot all of us that believe in the Constitution, and all of us that believe in the flag, and all of us that believe in what this country stands for? When did we get kicked out the back door?
I think there's a gross misunderstanding and this strange fear that dialogue and conversation and debate is a bad thing, and that's obviously crazy and just really flies in the face of common sense. Schools and really just typical life in this country. This should be a marketplace of ideas. That's part of the reason this country was formed. It's this melting pot. It's this idea that everybody has their say and is free to say it and is protected to say it. And when the government comes in and starts censoring and saying, "Oh no, you can't say this because it quote unquote might offend someone," or we're just gonna kind of cave to a certain group, well, that's just not concerning on the micro level, but on the macro level, it's a big problem, because once the government starts picking and choosing, they become the arbiter of what the right speech is and what isn't. And that's a big concern, because who knows what their ideology will be on any given subject. And that just is completely unconstitutional and not American.
I'm beginning to think that in order to qualify for the Ninth Circuit Court, you've got to be bonkers or completely Looney Tunes. That's what it sounds like these people are.
Right, especially when you're dealing with such a basic principle that the First Amendment protects the freedom of all students to peacefully express their views. And the Ninth Circuit knows that. So this is really an unprecedented decision to say that a public school, which is obviously an arm of the government, can ban peaceful protesting speech of students for fear of a negative reaction. That's something that no court has really upheld, and in fact, courts have vigorously opposed that kind of decision making, because it all goes back to what we said. They're supposed to be the marketplace of ideas. Schools are supposed to be the marketplace of ideas. The First Amendment clearly protects people to freely speak and protest peacefully. There's really no question about that. So it's going to be interesting to see whether the Supreme Court takes this or not.
Let me ask you this, and then I'll get on to the next story, Carrie, but let's just call a spade here. California is a big problem child because of the severe influx of illegal aliens coming into the state of California, and also a feeling of they have the right to come in illegally and take back what they feel like was taken from them, even though it was a legal treaty way back in the 1800s. This is a problem that's not going to go away. I think it's just going to be exacerbated in the future in many, many more schools. What are your thoughts?
I think it's tricky because on one hand, we want to celebrate the fact that we are a melting pot. We wouldn't be here today if not for the diverse people groups that make up our country, and that's something beautiful and something to be celebrated. However, at the same time, obviously this is the United States. If students want to wear a T-shirt with the American flag on it, or if they're protesting because they feel a certain way about, say, the way this celebration was being handled or held, that's okay too. The First Amendment protects everyone's perspective and everyone's freedom to speak freely and not be shut down by the government. So there are a lot of sensitive issues, I think, that come along when you have such a diverse group of people. But overarching it all is certainly the First Amendment, the Constitution that protects everybody's ability to speak and speak freely.
Okay, let's go to the cake. Here we go. I'm really upset about this story. You just really know how to get my blood boiling on a Monday morning.
I figure you like these ones.
Oh, man, I'll tell you what, I'm ready to jump into the fray and pick up a briefcase and be a lawyer. This has really got me upset. I mean, when the gay and transgenders and the lesbians are going to put businesses out of business because they don't feel like they were treated fairly, oh my goodness, another cake maker is in trouble. Tell us the story.
This is an interesting situation. So you have a bakery out in Colorado, and a man came into the bakery and asked the chef, the baker, and the owner to create a cake that was in the shape of a Bible and expressed views on homosexuality, with which the person baking the cakes did not agree. And so she offered to bake the actual cake, but she told the man that she would give him the icing and the tool to write himself, because she just did not feel comfortable putting that message on the cake. She couldn't use her talents and abilities to promote this message that the man wanted her to do. Well, the man ended up filing a complaint with the Colorado Civil Rights Commission, and she received a letter and needs to respond. Now, obviously, this is a very interesting situation because, as you know, we are currently representing Jack Phillips, who's also a baker in Colorado, who declined to use his talents to bake a same-sex wedding cake because of the message that it sent, and a message that is just antithetical to his faith and beliefs. And obviously Jack got slapped with the same kind of letter, and obviously he's been ruled against by the commission, and now we're up at the Colorado Court of Appeals. But it's going to be very interesting to see what the commission does with this particular instance. And we actually support the right of that baker in that bakery to not use her talents to promote a message with which she disagrees.
You know, Carrie, what this is coming down to, and we had an op-ed in our local paper this last Sunday, and I honestly think that the editors and the people that write these editorials have jumped off the bridge and landed on their head. But the gay, lesbian, and transgenders, they are making demands all over this country. And when they demand something, if it's not accepted on their terms, then they put other people with their freedom of speech and freedom of thought out of business. And this is happening not only here in Denver, but other places across the United States. I really don't know what we're going to do to combat it, because our rights as religious believers in the Bible and what it says, we're being diminished.
Yeah, it's really a concerning situation, because no American, as we always talk about, should be forced to think or speak or use their talents to create a message, that's being forced on them by the government, and if they don't do it, be punished. That's a completely disturbing situation. That's exactly what we're seeing. So yeah, we support the right of the Christian baker to not use his talents to promote a message that's congruent with same-sex weddings. We also support the right of a baker who doesn't want to write a message about the Bible and homosexuality, because the bottom line is the government should not be strong-arming anyone to speak a message with which they disagree. That's the bottom line. And if they can do so, like you said, the door is open for all kinds of things that just completely disturbing. And regardless of whether it's same-sex weddings or 20 years from now, who knows what it could be. But it's very concerning.
Yeah, but there's another aspect to this that, Carrie, you've got to elaborate on a little bit. and I think it's more insidious than anything we've talked about so far, and that is a quote-unquote re-education mandate, that the government wants to take your brain and tell you that you're wrong, and like Dr. Frankenstein, change you so that you accept their philosophy. That really bothers me.
And it should bother you. It's absolutely disturbing. And what you're referring to is when these commissions have ruled against these florists and bakers and photographers and people like that, or event venue owners who have said, look, we'll do whatever, we can serve you, we can do all kinds of things for you, but when it comes to same-sex wedding, our faith will just not allow us to use our artistic ability to promote that message. And then the government, one of the punishments has been this quote-unquote re-education training, where basically the government is coming in and saying, you need to quote-unquote re-educate yourself on what these issues are and force it on your employees. And, one thing that comes to mind immediately is, can you imagine if someone went into, say, a Jewish deli or bakery and asked those Jewish owners to create a cake or something like that said the Holocaust never happened? That's horrific. And then the government came in and said, sorry, too bad, you must do that. And here's some propaganda that says, by the way, that it did happen, and you need to teach your employees as such. Of course not. When we think of it in those terms, we say that's preposterous. The government shouldn't do that. But that's what's happening again and again. The government coming in and forcing people to speak a message with which their conscience says they just cannot do is a concern for freedom for every American, regardless of where you fall on this issue.
Absolutely. Carrie, stand by. We got a caller with a quick question. Go ahead, caller, fast, please. Go ahead.
Yesterday, I had a talk with a Jerome High School teacher, and he was talking about a girl that showed up in his class that had a T-shirt on that says, I am a lesbian. And he told her he didn't think that was proper for the class, and so she objected to him not agreeing with her in having the opportunity to wear it, but he sent her to the office and to talk to them. And then they objected to it also, but he says now we're probably both in trouble over this. And I'd just like to hear what she feels about that.
Respond to that, Carrie, and then I also have a remark to make on that. Go ahead, please.
Sure. Well, there are a couple of things at issue. Obviously, only the government can violate the Constitution, so this would obviously have to be something, if the principal said it, it can't just be student to student. This is the legal issue would come up when it's actually, a school official involved. And, as we've talked about, censorship of speech is a concerning issue. However, in schools, there is some law that allows, it's a little bit different in schools if it depends on code of conduct and standards and things like that. So we have to know a little bit more about the facts there and what what the school administrator did or did not do, and codes of conduct and things like that.
But we have seen stories in the last couple of years, Carrie, to where students have worn a T-shirt to school that said, I am a Christian, and they've been sent home or told to take it off. And I guess what's good for the goose is good for the gander. If they're not going to allow some verbiage on shirts or clothing in the schools, then they shouldn't allow any.
Again, it's a tricky one. Censorship of speech is always a dangerous game for government to get involved in. Free speech is something in the debate of ideas, and you want to encourage students. However, at the same time, when you have a school and you have students, there are some aspects that come into play that are a little bit different than would be on the outside. So it really depends on different aspects specific to that school.
You are the best, and I got to tell you that I could be having a lackluster day and then pick up the stories that you send me, and then you got me ready. Put me in, Coach. Give me my helmet. I'm ready to play.
I'm glad to hear that.
God bless you. Carrie, how can everybody check on the Alliance Defending Freedom?
Sure, they can go to alliancedefendingfreedom.org, or if they want some more in-depth information on our cases and take a look at some of the legal documents, they can go to adsmedia.org.
Thank you so much. God's blessings to you, and I'll look forward to next week. Thank you so much, Carrie Kupek. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Wonderful lady right there, Alliance Defending Freedom. I sit here and I'm just livid. Can you imagine the gays and lesbians and transgenders forcing a business to do their will against the beliefs and the religion of those people that own the store? You either do it or else we'll run you out of business. And can you imagine students in our high schools, our United States, being told they can't wear a T-shirt that glorifies and basically puts our flag up on a pedestal? No, you can't do that. You might offend somebody. What? Ay. Have we turned into a sick society? Anyhow, we got to go do the weather right now, and the weather is brought to you this hour by Urgent Care of Jerome, 133 West Avenue A, Suite B in Jerome. The number to call, 324-2004, 324-2004. Minor emergencies, major care. They will see you today, whether it's an illness or an ear infection or a sinus infection, sprain, strain, or fracture. They're there. They're there to serve you, absolutely. So rest assured they will see you today. Urgent Care of Jerome, 133 West Avenue A, Suite B in Jerome, 324-2004. Here now, Michael Rogers weather.
Hello, everyone. Michael Rogers for Zeb at the Ranch. Start of a brand spanking new week of you, me, fog. Yeah, fog. And weather. That fog should burn off. The good news is that you're going to see daytime highs in the 50s as you work your way toward today, tomorrow, and also for Wednesday. Overnight lows will be right around on the chilly side. And that fog is going to be lingering around. In fact, it's going to kind of make you upset. And that's okay. Just keep it in your mind that two things. If the fog is really bugging you and is really making you upset, it's going to be 46 below for the overnight low in Fairbanks, Alaska. And New York City and pretty much most of the northeast corridor going to be under a blizzard. So you're doing good. Enjoy the weather. It's the only weather you got.
All right. Thank you very much, Michael. Appreciate it. Brought to you by Urgent Care of Jerome, 133 West Avenue A, Suite B in Jerome, 324-2004. And minor emergencies, major care. Thank you very much. Oh, my, I didn't think Jack was coming out here in the fog, and here he is. He showed up for the next segment. I thought he was going to call in on the phone. Jack Honors here in the studio, Gina, so we don't have to worry about him calling in, and he'll be here next half hour. Calls are welcome and appreciated. 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. I got to get Gina involved in this a little bit. Gina, what would you say or do, honestly, and I know you're a fiery personality just like me, if Kennedy wore a T-shirt to the school and it had the U.S. flag on it, and he was told either turn it inside out or take it off because it wasn't allowed? Here we go.
Okay, so number one, I know first and foremost that wouldn't happen at the current school that he goes to because they are very patriotic.
Yeah.
Secondly, had that happened and he did go to a school, wow. Talk about a mama coming unhinged because basically he's supporting what our Constitution is founded
Absolutely.
And what our educators should be teaching anyway.
Absolutely. I just can't imagine this. I mean, they show a picture here in the story that Carrie sent me of the students, and they're not anything derogatory. I mean, these are very first-class T-shirts celebrating the United States of America and our flag, and they were told that, it might offend someone. Take them off. Are you kidding me? I would be down there in a heartbeat as a parent, and I would say to the principal and anybody else on the school board, you just try and take it off, my son.
You know what? Hey, here's the deal. Since when did the American flag become offensive? Don't all schools, especially public schools, have an American flag that flies directly outside of the building every day?
Now, there is a point, though, that you know from following the news that in many California locations, they're having a lot of conflagrations with various schools and school districts that have a heavy populace of where the illegal aliens have moved into where there's battles over what flag they're going to fly.
Well, then they don't get government funding then. They don't get funded
I
from
agree.
the taxpayer dollar. If that's the way that they're going to be, then the taxpayer dollars should be rescinded from their federal funding. So they're going to have to figure it out on their own. And then they can choose not to fly the American flag. But I'm sorry, if taxpayer dollars are going to support that school and that school district, you support the American flag because Americans are supporting you and your endeavors.
I'm just absolutely sitting in shock as I went through the story that she had sent me and listened to some of the absolutely outrageous verbiage the Ninth Circuit Court had given them that, oh, you can't do this, you can't do that, you might offend somebody, so we better not. Gina, have we reached the point in this country where we're going to worry, and I want to word this carefully, I do not worry about offending anyone. And the reason is because this is an opinion talk show, and they can express their opinion just like I'm expressing mine. If we lose that, we've lost our First Amendment.
Amen. Amen. And that's all I can really say is people need to grow a backbone, and I'm sorry if supporting the American troops and supporting the American flag and what it stands for is deemed offensive at that particular school. Either A, those parents can choose to pull their students out of school, or B, that school is just going to lose federal funding. I honestly do not believe that a school that would find the American flag offensive should be receiving federal funding.
But have you noticed...
I'm going to be a hard line on that one.
I've got to do a commercial break, but I want to get this in here too. But have you noticed lately, and we're, as a society, we're guilty of letting this happen. The gays' rights, the lesbian and the transgenders, if they don't want something, or if they do want something, it's either their way or the highway, and they've got the deep pockets with all the money to take you to court, destroy your business, destroy your name, do what they can to get their way, and they call you hate mongers and bigots to join their side and agree with them. And I will never do that. I will turn the plug off this radio program before I ever stoop to that level.
Agreed. And I would be in full support. We've got a quick phone call if you can take it as well.
I'll do it real fast. Caller, I've only got a minute. Real fast. Go.
Okay, number one, leave the flag alone. Number two, to the people that bake them cakes, put the frosting on there and use X-Lax and let them clean up the mess. Thank you. Goodbye.
Why did he do that to me? But it's not a bad thought. Not a bad thought. Anyhow, I got to get this in real quick. Thank you, Al. Mount Harrison Audiology and Hearing Aids with our very, very nice friend. She is such a nice lady. Christine Pickup, Doctor of Audiology at 1218 9th Street, Unit 2, behind the Minidoka Hospital, across from the emergency room. Number to call for your hearing check. Make an appointment, 312-0957. Did you hear that? Well, I hope so. We are living longer and have learned how to make the body last, but there is concern about the rise in dementia with the aging problem and also our hearing. So please don't let your loss of hearing be a problem. Get a hold of her today. Mount Harrison Audiology and Christine Pickup, 312-0957. Calls are welcome. I got time for just one or two more quick calls. And the number, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. Coming up this next hour, we have a dear, dear friend of ours here in the studio, and that's Jack Euler. And the newspaper had a story in it the other day where, here we go again, the rules and the guidelines and what everybody had agreed to with the environmentalists and the animal rights activists and everything. They want to change the rules again on the wolves. We're going to talk about that. Good morning, caller. Quickly, we're on the air.
Hi, Zeb. When you said that you don't care if people offend you, I don't either. I feel like if a person's judging me, that goes against my scriptures, and they will be judged by someone higher.
You know, that's very...
That's against everything that's in me.
Absolutely. That's very well put. I was at Lunch Bunch one time, and I was talking to some people, and they said, well, so-and-so, their neighbor, I offend them with my statements and my comments. Well, you know what? I guess I'm going to be calloused enough to just say it this way. I don't care. This is an opinion program, and you can agree with me, or you can disagree with me, because you have the right and the freedom of the First Amendment to call me up and let me know your opinion. But for me to sit there in a clamshell and pretend I'm not going to have an opinion, that's not going to happen.
I agree. And if a person is sitting there looking at me and judging me by what I look like, what I wear, what I say, then so be it. You judge me, but that won't offend me. But if I offend you by what I'm wearing, what I'm saying, how I look, or what I do, then behold you for judging me, because somebody else is going to judge you.
Absolutely. Thank you.
For everything that you do.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for your call. I got to run to the news. God bless you. Thank you so much. Very nice lady right there. Real quick, don't forget the Chadwick Sports Grill, 139 West Main in Burley. Today's special, chicken and bacon pitas. Oh, does that sound good? With choice of potato and super salad at the Chadwick Sports Grill. I love the menu. I love the people. Great food. 139 West Main in Burley. Chicken and bacon pitas today. Everybody stop into the Chadwick. I'll be back in a couple of minutes after the news. Oh, welcome back. As the drums go, da-da-da-da, I love that. Good morning, Zeb at the Ranch. I'm Zeb Bell, and our major sponsor, your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers. Thank you. And real quick, I'm going to take care of some commercials so I don't have to interrupt this man. I want to say thank you very much to A Child's World and the Ambulatory Surgery Center for sponsoring a segment that we have on Thursdays called Cassia County School Days. Thank you very, very much for all you do. A Child's World, of course, located downtown Burley at 1308 Overland, and they've got all the winter coats. They've got everything for the baby. They got toys and games for the whole family. What a great family store. A Child's World serving you, 1308 Overland in Burley, along with our friends at Ambulatory Surgery Center. Need surgery? Need carpal tunnel surgery? Maybe a knee surgery or colonoscopy? They handle it all and can save you money at Ambulatory Surgery Center, and that's at 1344 Highland in Burley. Number to call, 677-8888. Bringing you school days in Cassia County. Dear friend is with us in the studio, and I'm so blessed to have him here, and that's Jack Euler. Jack, good morning to you. How are you? You got to hold the microphone.
Yeah, I'm doing great.
Okay.
How are you?
Well, it's been a long week, but I don't want to talk about that. I want to get right to, and we don't have a lot of time, an article that was in the paper, and the first thing I did when I read this, I threw the paper on the ground in the living room, and I stomped on it, and I said, here we go again. Another story written by the Times News, where why don't they interview people like you that have worked since 1995 on this reintroduction of the wolves and find out the real honest truth about the numbers. Basically, what did you think about that headline, Enough Wolves Alive to Avoid Federal Takeover?
Well, if you know what that means, it means that we have enough that they're not going to put them back on the list. And this type of an issue is going to continue to come up between now and the 5 years that will be up in 2016 when the feds get out of our hair, if we continue to show that we can maintain more than 150.
The front story, the front line in the story, and I want to read this and have you respond, and it said, and it was written by Nathan Brown of the Times News, although Idaho's wolf population is dropping, data shows there are enough wolves to maintain state management of the population. Dropping? Where do they come up with the numbers are dropping?
Well, and if you read down further in the story, it talks about, and when we get all the information and get it analyzed, the numbers will probably be up. Zeb, the director of the Fish and Game came down and met with myself a week ago Thursday, and Dr. Scott Allen, and we went round and round on a lot of fish and game issues and things that the Fish and Game Department is doing and the way they're doing them, and I told the director that day, I said, you guys as a department need to put in the paper when these articles come out and start hammering us on management that just put in there what the introduction numbers were and what was supposed to be recovery numbers.
Yeah.
I said, start advertising what recovery numbers were on the introduction. And I said, that takes care of it. But I said, you guys are always quiet and you never speak up.
Okay, now, Jack, there's been wolf hunts. There have been licensed wolf hunts, and there's been very few numbers taken of the wolves in the state of Idaho. Okay? So if the wolves are increasing in the number in the packs, and we have more wolves now than ever before, some of the numbers I've heard from various people around the state, they're estimating probably between 12 and 1,500 wolves. And then we have the enviros coming out like this Andrea Sanseri, a staff attorney with the Center for Biological Diversity, saying that it's almost too late. Oh, the numbers are dwindling. We've got to do something to save the wolves. Where in the world are these people coming from?
Well, these people are coming from Mars. Let me give you some numbers. In 2000, and this is out of the Fish and Game Harvest Report numbers, from which starts in 1935 and goes to 2013, and we'll go to the wolf one, and in 2010 there was 181 wolves killed in the hunt. In 2011 there was 376, 2012 319, and 2013 303. Now that's what hunters took under the Fish and Game licenses, and there was more than that based on what Wildlife Services took also on complaints for depredation on animals, but these are the numbers that the hunters took.
Okay, now, that's okay. That's okay. You're talking about the hunters' numbers of wolves that were taken in a licensed hunt. But what these environmentalists and these crackpots fail to mention and say in any of these stories are the replenishment numbers, with the breeding pairs that are here and replenishment numbers on an annual basis. The numbers are growing, not being diminished. Are they just taking a death count over the years, but they're forgetting about the replenishment numbers?
They do not ever talk about those numbers, and those numbers are 25 to 28% per year increase based on, this is science, it's or supposed science that has been found to be true. In this book that I have, The Real Wolf, will go into that, and it tells you that's the case.
Are you right now this morning concerned, Jack? And like I said, there is not a person in the state that knows more about this wolf reintroduction than you. You've been our leader of the pack fighting it since 1995. Are you concerned that when you read statements like in this article that federal protections may be warranted again, that these people like this Andrea Santeri with the biological diversity, they're going to get their way because they got all the money?
Well, yes, I'm worried about it because I've seen what has been going on in other areas in the United States. They have taken away the delisting in Wyoming
and the Midwest
and the upper Midwest. Yep. They have taken away the delisting there, and it is just ridiculous, the things that are going on. And I have been wondering when the hammer is going to fall on Idaho and Montana, which has been delisted, and we continue to have them delisted, but there's an interesting aspect. When we got that in the CR, which is a budget bill, which is ridiculous that we have to put it in a budget bill in Washington, D.C. to get our wolves delisted, it says in there that it cannot be challenged in court. Now, is that the reason that Idaho and Montana hasn't been challenged in court? I don't know.
Yeah.
Is it going to happen? Yes, it is going to happen before 2016.
Okay.
Somebody is going to find a way or a sliver of hope for that side to bring him back. But there's some interesting things.
We got a caller. Okay. I got to get this call in real quick, and then we'll go into that. Caller, go ahead quickly, please.
Yeah, as we speak, the Canadians at the Panhandle on the border are now in their helicopters getting rid of a minimum of 40 wolves. I wonder if we could talk them into crossing the border and helping us out.
Dream on. Go ahead, Jack. Answer that.
I don't dare tell the truth.
No, let's just go ahead with my statement. Dream on. Dream on.
There has been cooperation from the United States and Canada in the past, and there will be continued cooperation. And that takes me back to this book, The Real Wolf, and one of the authors in here, Dr. Tom Bergerud from British Columbia, good friend, and I've worked with, he's got 40 years of predator-prey relationships, and he goes into what the real wolf is. And, it's a very interesting book, but when these wolves were brought here, it said that we had to keep the true DNA of the real wolf. And the more you read in this book and the farther you get into it, you find that there is nothing in the United States today that even resembles a real wolf.
Okay, but I want to
DNA basis.
I got to jump around here because we're short on time. There was another part of this aspect of the story in this newspaper that was written by this Nathan Brown for the Times News. Then he said this, and I want to read this to you and respond. Over the past few months, some federal judges have indicated a willingness to return wolves to federal protection after concluding states aren't managing them adequately. Now, here's the scenario. Here you have some federal judges that are led by the nose by the Obama administration and others, and they're being force-fed all the misinformation by the enviros and everything, and it almost seems like a lead pipe cinch that they're going to lean towards and in favor of the enviros and put the wolves back on the endangered species list. We can't win, can we?
Well, it depends on what judge you're in front of, but if it goes in front of one of those judges in the Ninth Circuit, yes, we cannot win in that court. We have to appeal it and go to the higher court. Now, 80 to 90% of the decisions that are made by the Ninth Circuit Court are overturned in a higher court. People don't know this. We have one of the most terrible group of judges in the Ninth Circuit that there is in the United States.
Yeah, that's true. Okay, now let me ask you this. The management of the wolves has been turned over to the Fish and Game as a quote-unquote big game species, right?
That's right.
Okay, now, that being said, then do you think that the Fish and Game should do a lot more than what they're doing to supply the numbers to the general public as to what's really out there?
Yes, and this is what I asked the director to do. I said, you need to communicate with the public and with sportsmen what the real answers are to these things that are going on today. Tell them what the government is doing with us not being able to land a helicopter in the Frank Church Wilderness area or shoot a dart out of a helicopter at an animal to dart it, to put a collar on it, whether it be a deer or an elk or a wolf, because it is a mechanical device, and it is illegal in the Frank Church Wilderness area, supposedly, for a mechanical device to hit the ground, whether it be the bullet or whether it be the helicopter. Now, I was in Boise to a Fish and Game Commission meeting last Wednesday night, and the Fish and Game are going to go ahead and start managing wolves in the Frank Church.
Okay, now, what about this aspect? The Wolf Depredation Control Board gave, quote-unquote, $400,000 to kill wolves, and Governor Butch Otter is asking lawmakers for the same amount for this year and next year. Now, that being said, $400,000, is this going to be kind of a fly in the milk for the wolf lovers to say, well, look, you're trying to kill them with $400,000. We got to match it with our money to take you to court to try to save the wolves. Are we in kind of a catch-22 here?
We are, if you're a judge. This thing is run by money. It is ran by money. You cannot get the environmental groups to sit down and say, okay, what have you done for the other animals that these wolves are killing? What have you done to save a species? What have you done on the ground? They haven't done anything. Their modus operandi is attorneys and courts, and that's it. They could care less about what is going on the ground, and they could care less about the species.
Jack, if they go ahead with this absolutely insane idea that the numbers have been depleted, and I'll repeat the word insane, and they do get federal protection from these federal judges, and the management is basically taken away from the Fish and Game, and I'm assuming it would go back to the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, then aren't we saying that we're going back basically 15, 20 years in time, and all that money and everything was for naught?
That's what blows me away, but that's what, and then they start complaining about money. And, this is a full circle thing that one day the environmentalists will be complaining about the money that's spent, and the other day they will be complaining about the numbers. Zeb, it's like I told a lady who was going to testify at the commission meeting last week. We were talking about, she was an environmentalist, and she was going to get up and talk about sportsmen and environmentalists communicating with each other and getting along and coming to an agreement. And I said, that's where you don't understand how the system works. I said, I've been at the table time and time again with these people, and you can come to an agreement with them, but as soon as the meeting's over and the door's shut, they go out and go a completely different direction. And she says, they do? And I said, yes. I says, they do not hold up on their agreements they've made. And to show that is true, the number of wolves in the state of Idaho to meet recovery is 100, according to the government.
That's right.
Or 10 breeding pairs.
That's right.
But do you ever see those numbers advertised in a piece of paper?
But you and I have said for many, many times on this program that it's not about protecting the wolves. It's not about anything, whether it's the owls over on the coast or whatever. It's all about the word control and cutting back on us, the human beings, on what our freedoms are. I'll stand behind that 100%.
Well, it's totally true. You look at the sage grouse, you look at the salmon, you look at the spotted owl, look what it did to the timber industry, and then the salmon and the mining, and it just goes on. And they're after the grazers out on the ground.
Do you think, Jack, and I don't want to put you on the spot on this, but you've always been very honest and forthright on this program, do these people like this Andrea Santeri with the Biological Diversity Center and Suzanne Stone up in Sun Valley area, and all these kooks and crackpots that basically want to make and say that the wolves are pets of society? Where are we? I mean, honestly, what do you think is going to happen over this issue that never seems to go to bed? It seems like it keeps up running around the house and getting worse.
Well, what I want to see is the time roll around until 2016, which is 5 years. We had to show we had to show the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, and when I say we, the state of Idaho, had to show that they could manage wolves for 5 years under the listing and delisting policy. And in 2016, that 5 years will be up. This article in the paper last week is just scratching the edges to start to tear down those parameters and tear down the numbers and show that the state of Idaho is not eligible or responsible enough to manage wildlife.
Do you know, are there meetings planned, like with these animal rights groups and these enviros? Have they got judges they've taken under their wing? Are there meetings going on right now today that we, the state of Idaho, should be aware of as to what's going on and not have it sprung on us all of a sudden?
Yes, there are, and it might be interesting that I have been invited to one in either Haley or Ketchum in a couple of months.
Have you got a bodyguard?
It was interesting that I got the invite to go to this meeting.
I bet it was.
But yeah, there's meetings going on, but I've just wondered when the hammer's going to fall on our delisting, and I fully expect it, but those few words that we got in the CR, the budget bill.
Do you think, before we run out of time, I only got 2 minutes left, do you think that your worries have kind of blown over the top on this because the Obama administration's in its last 2 years? They might do anything.
That's right. When he flew into Boise last week, I had trouble getting to the Fish and Game Commission meeting down Broadway. And the director of the Fish and Game was in Denver at a meeting, and he couldn't leave Denver until Obama left Boise because they wouldn't let the plane go.
Oh, my gosh.
I mean, this is a fiasco. But the thing that when they were brought here, and when I started working on this issue, all you'd hear these people talking about was the wolves and the true DNA of the wolf. You read this book today, and there is no real DNA wolf in the state or in the United States today. Every wolf that is out there today has been crossbred either with coyotes, hybrid wolves, or pets, because they do breed together. And we were told this would never happen, that the true wolf only bred with the true wolf. That is totally ridiculous, and these scientists have concluded that we do not have the true wolf today.
Jack, I so much appreciate you coming out and talking about this, and I know I'm going to have you back in the not-too-distant future to really tell the straight truth over what's going on with the wolf situation. Thank you for taking the time, and drive carefully out there.
I appreciate that, and I might say that I've been invited to Washington, D.C. to work on the sage-grouse issue.
Wonderful. Best man for the job. Thank you. Jack Euler, a dear, dear friend, and I'm so blessed to have him here in the studio. Real quick, before we send it back over to Gina, I want to remind everybody, Burley Physical Therapy and Rehabilitation at 1263 Bennett Avenue, Suite 2 in Burley, 678-1191. Nick was on our program last week, Nick Greenwell, and all of his great staff. They know all the exercises. They know all about sports medicine. They have the only pool around for the hydrotherapy. Oh, please, if you've got aches and pains and need some help helping you get back to being you, call them. Burley Physical Therapy and Rehabilitation, 1263 Bennett Avenue, Suite 2 in Burley. Number to call, 678-1191. Caller, I'm sorry, I've got to get it back over to our main studios. I'll be back in just a couple of minutes.
And now, back to Zeb at the Ranch on AM 1230 KBAR. To reach Zeb, call 436-2244 or toll free 1-866-927-4587. And now, here is Zeb Bell.
I'm back on the air, and I'm trying to find, there we go, I got this taken care of, and I got my papers, and I'm saying goodbye to Jack Euler, a very, very dear friend. Gina, if it's all right with you, so we don't have to interrupt Speaker of the House, Scott Bedke, I think I'll do the weather real quick. And the weather is brought to everybody this hour by Scarro's Meats, 331 North Road, Jerome, 324-7657. Don Scarrow and the rest of the crew with the best of beef, pork, lamb, processing of wild game. Believe me, they guarantee everything they sell, and they sell taste one bite at a time. Very good people. Scarro's Meats in Jerome, 324-7657. Here now, Michael Rogers weather.
Hello, everyone. Michael Rogers for Zeb at the Ranch. Start of a brand spanking new week of you, me, fog. Yeah, fog. And weather. The fog should burn off. The good news is that you're going to see daytime highs in the 50s as you work your way towards today, tomorrow, and also for Wednesday. Overnight lows will be right around on the chilly side. And that fog is going to be lingering around. In fact, it's going to kind of make you upset. And that's okay. Just keep it in your mind that two things. If the fog is really bugging you and is really making you upset, it's going to be 46 below for the overnight low in Fairbanks, Alaska. And New York City and pretty much most of the northeast corridor is going to be under a blizzard. So you're doing good. So the weather is the only weather you got.
Thank you very much. Brought to you by Scarro's Meats. Dalton Scarrow and the rest of the crew at 331 North Road, Jerome, 324-7657. Scarro's Meats, selling taste one bite at a time. Going to go right to the phone lines. I don't want to keep him waiting any longer, and I'm very honored to have the Speaker of the House, Representative Scott Bedke, on our program this morning. Scott, good morning, sir. How are you?
I'm doing well, Zeb. Good morning.
Scott, I need to ask a question before we get into any of the topics that were aforementioned this morning early when I called you. But we just had my dear friend Jack Euler on the air, and we were talking about the enviros and about federal judges and the Ninth Circuit Court trying to overrule the wolf reintroduction and how it satisfied the numbers for many years and say that the wolves are in jeopardy. And, of course, our Governor Butch Otter has asked for another $400,000 to have hunting for the wolves and have wolf management. Where is the money going to come from in the budget so we can hold the environmentalists and the animal rights activists at bay?
Well, there's room for that in the budget. I mean, I know that the JPAC committee is planning on that, and that's a line item in the budget, and I don't see any reason why that won't go through both the House and the Senate and be signed by the governor. So I don't think we need to worry about the money. I think it's there.
Okay.
I know it's there as of this morning.
But you will admit that with what's happening with these, the wolf numbers are escalating every year, and yet the newspaper come out and said for some reason that Idaho's wolf population is dropping. I don't know where they come up with this balderdash, but now they want to get federal judges involved and possibly look at our management and maybe overturn this and go back to an endangered species list basis. That would be absolutely deadly to the state of Idaho.
I couldn't agree more. I mean, remember what the original agreement was 10 breeding pairs.
Right.
And if you have 1,000 wolves out there, do the math. So we we have a stable and frankly growing wolf population in the state of Idaho, and this money that we talked about earlier is about the state managing the wildlife populations, including wolves here, all to the end of keeping the wolf off the endangered species list, but at the same time balancing it with the other with the other wildlife interests. So they have decimated the elk herds in many parts of the state. What used to be prime elk habitat and elk hunting in the state of Idaho has gone way down. Anyway, yeah, that you'll see the state of Idaho, led by me and others, take up the fight on this. I mean, we are not going to sit idly by and have that species relisted by a court or anyone else.
Okay.
If we have to, I mean, we can go to Congress. We're just hopeful we don't have to do that, but we'll fight on this one.
All right, now I need to hurry and get a lot of subjects in here in a short period of time. First and foremost, good heavens, what's going on with the groundwater users and the Rangan water call? Bring us up to speed on this water issue.
Okay, real quick, there was a court-imposed deadline of January 19th. That said that the groundwater users had to have water delivered to Rangan by January 19th. They were in the process of doing that. Part of the pipe that they were using was not brand new. It was just like new. It had never been used for chemicals or anything. It had been used, I guess, one time to transport water, from a well to a water truck. And because it wasn't, quote, brand new, the department said that it wasn't living up to the terms of the contract. They red flagged the project. And so So basically, rather than and the department issued the curtailment order and sent out the letters. That would have been devastating to the farmers. But of course, there's no farmers are irrigating at this point. That would have idled 157,000 acres. It would have shut off city wells in 14 cities in southern Idaho. It would have shut off wells at processing plants, including Glanbia, Jerome Cheese, McCain's, and others in southern Idaho. It was not a pretty scenario. We all have read that Judge Wildman, the adjudication court judge, or the water judge, if you will, stayed the decision from the director to give everybody till February 7th to get the project in place, to get the pumping, get the water delivered to Rangan. I'm told by the engineers and by the groundwater community that they can meet that deadline. In fact, February 7th was their date. It wasn't a date that was pulled out of the air by the judge. So they're very confident that they can hit that date. It just shows what's at stake here. As this issue comes to a head, I mean, we've got to be aware of just how devastating this could be to our economy. And but the good news is that everybody's kept their eye on the ball, and that no one is going to overreact to the things that are going on. I guess I have a little bit of a problem. I'm sure glad that the Judge Wildman used common sense and that it was the cooler head that prevailed, and that the director's call was not, or the letters of curtailment were not enforced. I thought that was short-sighted. In my opinion, I mean, I'll go out on a limb here. This irritates me. I mean, you have the groundwater community stepped up. They've spent millions of dollars, literally $4 or $5 million, getting this pipeline in. And if that's not an act of good faith, then I don't know what is. And if they don't get if they don't get the water there on the 19th, but it ends up being a little later than that, that has got to be. We've got to accommodate one another on this. There's got to be give and take at all levels in order for us to solve this problem. And drawing lines in the sand and issuing orders is not, in my opinion, the way to do it. I mean, it's a great tactic. It gets everybody's attention. But I think that, I'm not trying to let anyone off the hook. I'm not trying to take pressure off of any of the entities here, but I think everyone was working as hard as they could, and then up jumps the devil. And we need to recognize that for what it is. It can be fixed, and I'm thankful that Judge Wildman saw it that way. And I'm very optimistic that they will be pumping water under the court's agreement to Rangan by the first week of February.
Is the final outcome, and this will be the last question on this subject, but is the final outcome of this matter on the water, can it be amenable to both sides, or is somebody really going to get hurt with a final judgment?
No, it's amenable. This was agreed upon by both parties. And see, Rangan, of course, has protested all the way along. Frankly, they did not want their issue to be addressed with water. I think they would have preferred to be bought out, frankly, but that's not the case. And so, but this was agreed upon by the courts blessed this litigation plan, and it's part of a larger plan for addressing the water issues in the Hagerman Valley. And so we're well on track to negotiating this so that all parties can have finality, they can have predictability, and we won't be just playing this game every spring of where is the next water call and then moving heaven and earth to address that water call. We're trying to address it in a global way so that all of the interests in the Hagerman Valley and the Hagerman area, they have predictability as to water, as they are due because of their senior rights status. And then the groundwater community will know that they've got a plan that they can invest in, and that will get them some long-term stability as well. So I'm optimistic that this is all going to work out, and at the end of the day, and then the state's money goes into making investments into the aquifer to not only stabilize it but to improve it. So it's a multifaceted approach here, and it will work as long as we don't have one of the parties jump the traces in the meantime.
Okay.
We narrowly avoided that last week.
Okay, Scott, I know right now today, Monday, you're in the middle of quite a few protests up there on the grounds of the State House, etc., with Add the Words. There are some that think that the homosexuals in our state are not being treated fairly, but I will come out and say, and I'll be very forthright, I think all these people want are special rights over and above everybody else. What's going on with the group up there called Add the Words?
Well, there's a lot of people here in the Capitol today, and so far we've been able to accommodate the crowds. We have the new auditorium, so that's completely full. We have 3 other fairly large committee rooms that are all filled. And so if they're not in the main room, then they're watching it on TV or from the other room. So that's one of the good things from the remodel of the Capitol, is it allows us to accommodate these large crowds. And at this point, I think most everybody has a seat in a room and is watching it on the screen and listening to it. So it's not the protests and the lockdown situation or the blocking of the entrances and whatnot that we had last year, which is frankly one of the reasons we wanted to have this hearing and get it done at the first of the session. It got to be completely unproductive at the end of the session last year. So we agreed, we're going to have a hearing. We're going to accommodate our fellow citizens. They're going to come make their case to a committee of 18 Idahoans, and then those Idahoans are going to vote their conscience at the end of the process. And I don't know if it's going to be tomorrow or the next day, but we've adjusted the schedule so that we're going to go in the morning until 11:30, and then they're going to come back. They'll recess the committee and come back in the evening and go for 2 or 3 hours in the evening, and we'll repeat that tomorrow on Tuesday and Wednesday if need be. until everyone has had a chance to speak. And what's interesting this time is the Capitol is not just full of those advocating for adding the words, but there's also a lot of families here, a lot of other interested citizens. A lot of the testimony is against this bill. And so there's for and against, and the chairman is doing a good job in alternating the testimony back and forth. And so at this point, everybody has been respectful. There's a lot of people here, so there's some logistical issues, but so far there's not been any problems. Everybody has handled themselves, very well, and it's both sides can be proud of the way that they have access to the legislative process, and the committee will hear them out, and they'll make a vote, and we'll see how it goes at that point. I'm not handicapping it one way or the other, but I think at the end of the day that we'll have conducted a process that everybody can point to say, well, we had our day in court, and win, lose, or draw. That's all we can ask for.
All right, now the key word in my next question is the first word. How do the gays, lesbians, and transgenders think that they have been discriminated against? How?
Well, I guess discrimination is sometimes in the eye of the beholder, and so they're reciting all of these stories and whatnot, and to the viewers, you can go on Idaho Public Television now, and you can watch these proceedings if you choose, at home on your computer. But it's hard for me to, I don't know exactly. I can't make their case for them.
Yeah.
I just can't do it. Yeah. And I feel like Idahoans are tolerant people. There's a wide streak of live and let live. But then there's also a line over which, people don't want to cross. And so I think we're hearing that as we listen to this testimony, that there's, tolerance is one thing, special class privileges are another. And so I don't know exactly how it's going to turn out, but I think I do.
All right, let me ask you this question then, Scott. We thought, and we had talked a couple of days ago, that when Obama came to Boise State University, there was a lot of questions hanging in the air as to what he was going to announce. I had thought possibly he was going to talk about the Boulder White Clouds issue. What are your thoughts about Boulder White Clouds, monument status, Mike Simpson's program, etc.? What's best, honestly, for the state of Idaho?
Well, it's not a good choice one way or the other. I certainly don't want the federal government designating it. I'm not in love with the other one, frankly, myself. But if I've been thinking about this. If the feds are going to carve out a bunch more land here and exclude, many uses, frankly, then why don't we make a trade? If they're going to carve out a couple of million acres of wilderness area, then why don't they give the state a couple of million acres of timberland or rangeland or something that and why don't and they exempt themselves from all the federal regulations that they impose on everyone else as to clean water and clean air and just the myriad of restrictions that everybody else has to go through when it comes to land management, and they restrict themselves from that. And I just don't think it's right. I don't think it's fair. I don't want a larger federal footprint in our state any larger than it already is. And I am trying to draft some type of legislation that would basically. I think that there's some things that the state can do from our perspective to make this more difficult, and I not in a way to stall it, but in a way to make a statement and in a way to elevate the issue that we're not being treated on equal footing with the rest of the states by having 2/3 of our land mass managed by the federal government and in a way that is not conducive to the economy here in the state. It infuriates me. It was interesting. We had Governor Kasich here last Friday. From the governor from Ohio. Had no idea that 2/3 of the state was owned by and managed by the federal government. We had a chance to visit with him about that. I think it was a real eye-opener to him and others. We've got to, as Idahoans, we've got to elevate this issue and not be a doormat for the balance of the country, but to stand up for states' rights when it comes to this and other things. Now, I don't know if CETRA is where we want to drive the line, but the options on the table are not where I think Idaho should go.
Okay. Scott, I've only got 2 minutes left, and I'll ask you this question real fast. Of all the items so far that have been brought in front of you as Speaker of the House and issues that have to be addressed, how is the session going for this year?
Well, I think it's going pretty well. We're still at the start of the session, so there's not, there's a lot of ideas still floating around. There's concepts, there's things that we know we have to address. We've got to address the budget. We've got to address public schools. We've got to address, at some point, the transportation issue and the bridge issue in the state. But there's not a clear path forward on that. There's still just a lot of ideas going back and forth. And so you'll see over the next couple of weeks this coalescing around certain concepts, certain ideas, and then we'll see if we can't put them forward in bill form and get some votes on some of these things. The good news is that the economy is slowly recovering, and that we've got about as much money this year as we did back in 2008. Well, that's a big deal. That's how long and how hard and how deep the recession has been in Idaho. And so you're going to see us want to put some money away for a rainy day. You're going to see us want to address the public schools issue, and I think you're going to see us want to look at income tax rates in the state to keep Idaho competitive. It was interesting. Another thing John Kasich said is, their income tax rates in Ohio are 5 point. I think he said 5.4, and they want to move them down below 5 point, down into the 4s. Well, see, Idaho's at 7.4 and looking to get below 7. I think we've always, we have got to remain competitive when it comes to citing businesses with these other states. So that's kind of, but I'm optimistic that we'll be able to move and make progress on each of these areas that I just.
All right. Speaker of the House, Representative Scott Bedke, dear friend, thank you so much for taking the time this morning to be on our program. I'll look forward to other times on the air. Thank you, Scott. God bless.
Okay. You are very welcome, and I appreciate being able to come on your show and visit with your audience.
All right, sir. Speaker of the House, Scott Bedke, we thank him very much for being on our program this morning. Don't forget our major sponsor, your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers. Holy cow, they've got all your tires. You went out and took a little drive this weekend, and you noticed your tires, maybe you're pulling to the left or pulling to the right. Maybe you better go have a front end alignment. Shocks and struts. Maybe you need brand new tires. Well, they've got all the tires you could be looking for. All the traction tires, the passenger car tires, the performance tires. They've got all the batteries right there, and the very, very best in brake service of anybody. You stop into any one of the 7 locations serving you, and that's, of course, Lane and Rupert, Dave on Blue Lakes and Twin, Mike and Buell, Mike and Jerome, the Twist family in Paul, John on Poline in Twin Falls, and Randy, the old Seahawk fan, on Overland and Burley. Your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers, the absolute very best. Coming up tomorrow, don't miss at 10:30. We get more requests for this man to come on our program than anybody else, and that's former CIA operative and knows all about what's going on around the world with our security or lack of, and that's Brian Fairchild. So don't miss that tomorrow at 10:30 on the program, and many other great guests too, right here on Zeb at the Ranch. K-Bar 12:30 a.m., streaming live on the internet, zebbell.com, and remember this, the way things were are the way things ought to be. God bless. Thanks, Gina. See you tomorrow morning.